friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and this is
Adam.
Adam is my husband. He's not typically in my videos, but today I wanted to talk about a special topic, and I needed his input on this because he's the one that made a lot of the decisions regarding this topic. So we are going to talk about tornado safety and preparation and why we chose an above-ground tornado shelter for us here in Northwest Ohio. We're going to show you our tornado preparations, what we keep in our shelter, and what I keep in my tornado go bag, and just answer some questions about that. So if that's something that interests you, why don't you stick around? Okay, so if you're new to our channel, we are parents to 9 children ranging in age from 17 down to 2 months. 2 months old today. Mm-hmm. Can you believe that? That flew by. And we live on a small homestead in Northwest Ohio. We are kind of right on the eastern edge of Tornado Alley. We have both lived in this area of Ohio most of our lives. You lived in North Carolina for a little bit as a child, but for most of our lives, we've lived in this area, and we have seen some tornado action. Have you ever lived through like a direct hit in your area?
No direct hits. We've seen them touch down in the field, but that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
We experience in our area a lot of the winds that come with and see a lot of damage from the winds. We did last year at this time of year have a tornado touchdown just about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from our house. And it kind of devastated that community. So we do know that it is a real possibility that it could happen. I'm grateful that in my 44 years of living here, it never has happened, to us, but it is something we need to be prepared for, and that's why we're bringing you this video, because Adam and I kind of looked at the weather, and we looked at the calendar last week, and we were like, I think it's time for us to get the shelter ready and prepared and start thinking about tornado season. So why not bring you that information as we're preparing? Okay, so we chose on this homestead to have an above-ground tornado shelter. Well, I say we, but mostly he did. And I'm going to let him explain why. But first, you're probably wondering why we aren't using the cellar in our home. Why don't you go ahead and explain why we didn't use the cellar when we moved to our house?
Well, our cellar is very old. A lot of the beams that are above, everything's just really old and rickety, and it's not put together the way you would think that traditional houses are put together. So I didn't think it was safe. I believe the safest place for a tornado is underground, but not with a big house over top and your electrical box down there with your water supply. Water supply and electricity and a house over top, it seems like it's a bad decision. I'd rather have an underground shelter outside of your house where nothing can get on top or fall in on you. That would be ideal. We looked at different options. I contacted a company, and I wanted to do both a tornado shelter and a root cellar, but it was small, but it had to be up to FEMA's specs and everything, and it was very expensive.
Yeah, because the amount of food that we preserve and would put in a root cellar to then have room for our family down there when we would, need to use it. Yes. I mean, it would have to be rather large.
So I was looking to build an outdoor one, underground. I say outdoor, I'm sorry, not under the house. And it was very expensive for the space that we wanted. So I even looked at making it smaller space, and it was still pretty expensive. So then I started looking at above ground kits that maybe I could put together, or whatever the options were. And so I was looking for lots of different companies and ones to be certified that can handle, high winds. And we came across a couple companies, but I came across one company named Tornado Alley. They would send down somebody to install it. It was rated for F5. It passed that certificate. It was certified for an F5, and it followed all the FEMA regulations. And it was a third of the price. of building one and digging one out next to our house, and that made that was a big seller right there, a third of the price. And we needed something soon, and so I didn't want to save another 2-3 years and wait to build one underground when I can go ahead and do the one now.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, the installation process, they came up, and it was put together in what, like half a day? They got it put together?
Yeah, I'd say, I don't even know if I think probably about 4 hours.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to guess 4 hours. They just anchor it to the concrete. You have to have at least 4 inches of concrete. I think we have 5, I think it is. And then they just drill down through, and then they anchor it inside of our lovely garage here.
So we have a detached garage, so we kind of call this Adam's garage. It started out as his workshop and garage, but the family has sort of overtaken it. It's become like a family rec room space. So we have workout equipment, pool table, ping pong table, a little TV area, and then behind us here is sort of his tools are all kind of smashed over here now, and we put the tornado shelter out here. And it has proven to be kind of a nice space to have it in, because if we know we're expecting weather where a tornado could pop up that evening, we'll just kind of come out and hang out here as a family, and then if we hear the sirens go off, then we can pop into the shelter and we're already out here. Yeah. So it's a good place for it. We do have to run from the house outside to get here, but that would have been the case for our cellar even, because we don't have indoor access to that. We would have had to go outside. Yeah. So it isn't always convenient. There have been a couple times in the middle of the night where the sirens have gone off and you've woken us up and we've hopped out of bed and haven't even had time to put shoes on. We're just grabbing kids and running out here. But we can get out here if we need to, in a minute. And it works. So. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna. Oops.
Not ready. I'm not ready.
We're gonna take you over and look at the shelter. Like I said, we are in Northwest Ohio. So in any given year, how many times do you think on average we come out here and get into it?
Last year we came out once.
Yeah, I think it was only once.
The previous year, I believe it was 0. Mm-hmm. But then, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, it was like 4 times.
Yeah. So anytime we hear the sirens, and it just kind of depends on the year. We're kind of right on, like I said, the eastern edge of Tornado Alley. So some years there's a lot of activity, and some years there's not. But just as gardening zones have changed over the last couple of years because the weather patterns are changing, they're saying Tornado Valley is kind of moving more east. Didn't they say that last year?
Yeah,
north, yeah. And so, it's just something that we need to be prepared for. So typically when we do have to get into it, it's not for long periods of time. I know some of you that live in Oklahoma or down there in Texas, you might have to spend the whole night in your tornado shelter. We typically, 30, 40 minutes at the most, we're going to be in there. Yeah. Would you say?
That's the longest we've been in there.
Yeah.
I would say the average is probably 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The sirens go off, they're gonna when the sirens go on, they're gonna go off in about 20 minutes unless it's a really bad storm, and then they could go on for a half hour, 40 minutes.
Now, there were times when we lived in our old house where we were in the basement for several hours. So in this area, there is the potential to be in the shelter for many hours, but we've just been blessed in the last couple years, or since we've had this shelter, that hasn't been the case. Right. And you're going to see why that's a blessing when you see the shelter. This is not the kind of shelter that is made for comfort. It isn't like being in your basement. It's standing room or sitting on the floor with a child in your lap, because we are a family of 11, but it gets the job done, and that's what we care about. Right. So let's go ahead and show you what we're talking about. Okay, so here is the shelter that we're talking about. It's about 6 feet, 6 inches tall, and what are the dimensions, Adam?
About a 5x7.
It's about a 5x7. So we had way less kids when we had this installed. I don't think we anticipated having 9 kids, but we can make it work because most of our kids are still pretty little, and we just have kids sit on laps and big people can stand. So why don't you go ahead and open it, and we'll have Adam take us through the inside. All right. So can you talk a little bit about like this particular model and like what are some of the benefits of this? Like I know the door, like you can get above ground shelters or below ground shelters and they're all different, but this door is kind of different than other ones. Like what?
Yeah, so you can see the locking mechanism. You want to make sure that a little child doesn't go in here and hit that, pull this down, and then hit that because that'll lock it. Mm-hmm. You cannot, no matter what you do, you cannot open that.
Yeah.
They're going to have to, the fire department's going to have to come out and drill that out.
Yeah.
So this is going to lock it completely so that it's not, no wind's going to be able to open it up.
Yep.
This door seals on the outside here, so with all the wind pushing and blowing, this lock will keep it from being sucked out, and all the wind or debris that hits it, that's what the above ground steel shelters are for, is debris.
Yes.
Most shelters, even underground ones, if you get a direct hit, good luck.
Yeah.
So this is for the tornadoes coming right down here. It hits the house but doesn't hit this. This is going to help with F5 debris.
Yeah, in order to get that like F5 certification, it had to undergo tests where they like slammed debris into it.
2x4s.
2x4s into it at the like rate that an F5 would, right? And it had to pass 4 tests is what I'd read.
I can't remember if it was 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But it was very, it shattered the 2x4s.
Right. So this is going to protect us from like a tree hitting,
Yep.
yeah, but it's not like a direct hit, you're just praying.
yeah, because it could take it right out of the concrete if you get something that's really a direct hit and it's that intense. But we don't really get those around here. I don't even know if Ohio's ever had an F5.
Right. Van Wert had some crazy ones years ago.
But they still called that F4. But
yeah.
Anyway.
But the door, this one, like, it doesn't, it shuts differently than other. Oh, hold on.
Say that again.
Okay, hold on. So one of the main things that I read about tornado shelters is that you can get entrapped. And there's something about this door that helps and the setup of this that will prevent entrapment. So can you explain that?
Well, it doesn't go in.
That's what I was trying to say. That's what I couldn't spit out.
Okay. So, it goes right here. And as long as nothing's up against it, you can't get entrapped because it won't collapse in. Now, let's say a tree or this whole garage is up against it, then I can't open the door.
Right, but you can get out a different way, right?
That's where I was going.
All right,
yeah, you're
perfect.
You're good. So this is all put together like a kit with nuts and bolts. You can see all the nuts and bolts all the way around here. And so you can take it apart from the inside. So you cannot get trapped inside. Now, you just are careful when you're taking it apart in case everything is on top of you. But you can take off a panel right here, and you can be able to push this panel out and then try to go out and make a new door, make a new exit.
And there are tools somewhere in here?
Yeah, there's tools down here.
Yep.
There's tools right down here.
So you're not going to get entrapped because you can just disassemble it from the inside, which is nice. Yep. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you modified this to make it a little more comfortable and...
Okay. Well, at first, before I got a wood burner in the garage, because that was only a few years ago, I insulated it. It's not very much, but I had an Eden Pure out here, and that's how I used to heat the area out here. So I would, in the springtime, heat this area up right around here, and then I keep the door open so heat would get in here and it would stay warm during this March and April time, which is the time that I cared about. So I insulated it so just be a little bit more comfortable. Right now we have the wood burner in here in this whole garage, so
it's pretty comfortable.
It's unnecessary now, but it was back then. I also have some moisture wicking things so that if we have any metal in here that wouldn't, or the batteries, it wouldn't get too wet in here and trapped because of the spring. We have we have a lot of different things. I built a bench and a shelf, and it's just pieced in here. I can just rip it out. It's not drilled in there or anything. Mm-hmm. It's just pieced in here, so we can store things, and people can sit down.
You put some little magnetic lights up here too, so we
have some magnetic lights up here, and then I have extra batteries. Some of these don't have batteries in them, but we can put them in if we need them. Mm-hmm. We got some water here.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit, because that's kind of it. Other than that, I mean, I guess you added a little carpet to the bottom, because we do end up sitting, because typically if we're in here, like Adam is usually standing by the door. The older children are usually sitting back there on the bench, and I'm usually sitting on the floor here with little ones kind of on my lap. Anyone who's kind of scared needs some snuggles, or if we've pulled little ones out of bed, they'll like literally fall back asleep in my lap down here. And it seems like a small space, but even with everybody in there, it's not too bad. Like, there's space for everybody.
It's not too bad. You lean up against the wall. I put insulation down, and I also put 2 layers of insulation and the carpet. And it's not just for the comfort, but in the springtime, in March, it can be 28 degrees outside. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it'll jump up to 60 when the storms come, but the ground is still cold. That means the concrete is still cold. Mm-hmm. So if we want to be able to stand in here or sit on the floor comfortably and not be cold, we have to insulate ourselves from that concrete ground. Yep. And that's the main reason why I put the carpet and a couple different layers of insulation underneath here.
Yep. Okay, so obviously I'm a mom and he's a dad. So when we think about pulling all our children out here and protecting them during the storm, and then dealing with whatever could potentially be outside of the door when we open the shelter after the storm, we're always worried about kind of different things, and we prepare in different ways. So I'm gonna have him show you how he prepares and what he keeps in the shelter, and then I have a bag that I will grab on the way out the door to get to the shelter that contains things to care for the kids, and we'll kind of go through that bag after he shows his preps in here. So, all right, let's show what you've done to prepare.
So most of the things that I started putting in here after I built the bench and everything, I want to put supplies in here in case we actually had to go through it. I didn't really care about hanging out in here for it, and then it's over, and then we just leave, like snacks and all that kind of stuff.
That's my job.
Yeah, that's her job. So what I cared about is that, okay, what happens if we have to deal with a real one? So, or with to be in here for a long time, just things that I don't want to have to deal with. Okay, so first we got some blankets, to keep warm. We have a toilet in here.
Why don't you pull it out and show?
Okay. So this is our toilet, just in case we have to be in here for a couple hours. And then you put there's a baggie, and it has these beads in it, so it keeps.
Smells. Oh, that would be so unpleasant. But you know what?
It's going to be bad no matter what.
But with kids, you just, especially when they're nervous, if they're scared, you need to have it there just in case. But
so, yeah, that's our
emergency.
We have not used it yet.
Thankfully.
Anyway, we have that. Obviously, like I said, we have blankets. We have flashlights. We have lights in here. Mm-hmm. I got some med kits in case there are injuries. There's a blowout kit, and then just some tourniquets and bandages and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If they actually have a tornado and it wipes out the neighbor's house or something like that, we're safe, and I get out and all of a sudden I hear screaming down the road.
Yeah,
I can grab this stuff and I can run down the road and help.
Yes.
So we have some med kits in here. I also I have 2 firearms in here. Mm-hmm. One shotgun and one rifle, and I lock up all the ammunition in a safe here.
Yep. And people might think, oh, why would you need that? But we have livestock outside too, and I've always thought about, they're out there, and what if one of them's really badly injured and you come out and you need to put it down, and You know, the house is, I mean, there's just lots of practical reasons to have a firearm in that kind of situation.
And, you know, if a door's busted, you can take a shotgun, you can open some doors. There's a lot of different things you can do with those. But anyway, we have two of those. We do have water. We have the old space blankets. We have a urinal. I have so that's like some of the main ones, but also I have this kit that I just put together not too long ago. There's more flashlights, but here's some snap lights, 6-inch snap lights. I just keep in here for emergency purposes. You know, if some emergencies happen at nighttime, well, there you go, snap lights. It's always good to have some of those. But I put this kit together, I don't know, a couple years ago. That just keeps, you know, we have our radio in here. This is actually a Faraday cage.
Some people know what that is.
Yeah. So just in case that happens, we have our electrical stuff in here. But we have our radio. We have a generator, a battery generator. Solar powered. There's solar power panels back there. I have a bunch of extra batteries and flashlights and lights and walkie-talkies and a lot of the electrical stuff in there. A couple extra more bandages and headlamps. Headlamps are good. You'd want to have at least 1 or 2 headlamps instead of flashlights, just because you can put it on and use both your hands to work.
Well, yeah, and I think too, if we're crawling out of here in a disaster zone with children who might be barefoot because they didn't have time to put shoes on before they got into the shelter, I can't hold a flashlight while walking out in the dark. You know, having a headlamp on so that you can use both hands to be carrying children probably is wise.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. We're not planning on staying in here very long.
Right.
Tornadoes around this area, they come and they go pretty quickly. Or the high winds. I mean, sometimes we have inline winds. Same thing. Once it hits, it's gone. It doesn't stick around, and usually another storm doesn't really follow it afterwards, like some other places where you might have one tornado, then another one, then another one. Usually you have, they hit that front, and then they just follow that front all the way through, and then it's over pretty quickly.
Yeah, so like even the water that you have up there, that's not necessarily even for drinking while we're in here. I don't really want to be giving these children a bunch of fluids that then they're going to have to use the toilet or whatever. It's more just there for an emergency, for if we open the door and everything's gone and we need water, you know?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I have here is for, I mean, besides the blankets, is if we actually need to use the shelter. If the shelter saved our lives, then that's why we have some of these other things.
And then, whereas my preps that we're going to show are more for while we're in here for the children. So why don't we can sit on the bench here, and then what's funny is you haven't seen my preps, and I hadn't really seen yours. So let's see how our minds think alike and how they think a little differently. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that like we had just had a talk last week about how we need to prepare for tornado season. So I packed this bag today. He hasn't had a look at it. So some of this stuff he might laugh at me. But some of the stuff are actually like, I didn't know what he had out here already prepared in the shelter. So it's funny. We'll see how minds think alike. So this is how a mom thinks. Because I'm grabbing kids and when they could be out here for a while. So we have a baby. So we need to have a change of clothes in case she had a blowout. And then, absolute necessity, one of her foolers. Because if I grab her in the middle of the night and the passy falls out, and then if we had to listen to a crying baby in here for a half an hour, that would be very stressful. So a passy. We have 2 kids in diapers right now. So some diapers in each of their sizes and some wipes.
I see. If they go bathroom in their diaper, we're probably going to leave them in their diaper for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't want to smell up the shelter if I change in their diaper.
Well, they're going to smell anyways.
But for emergency purposes.
But yeah, well, also we talked about like once we don't know if the house will even be there when we come out. So just having enough diapers to make sure that
It's always good
to
enough to have
get
enough
us
diapers.
to wherever we're going to go after that. This is, you're going to laugh at this, but if we were in here for a while and I need to calm kids down, having a book to read to them that might, if I have a kid that's really anxious and crying, this could entertain and keep kids calm. So just, it has like a storybook collection of just some different stories that I could read or one of the older kids could read to a kid to distract them if they're upset.
Makes sense.
He has lights. These are glow light bracelets. If it were pitch black and electricity is out and we open the door, putting these on the kids, you know, I don't know. Who knows?
Or it's just fun to put them on and
They could.
and keep
Yeah.
the time going.
Sitting in here in the dark. Yep.
Yeah.
What do we have here? Matches. I don't know.
Might as well.
Might as well.
Might as well.
First aid kit. He's probably has a way better first aid kit than this packed, but I put it in my mom bag because
Got sutures.
here's one. These are EpiPens for my son who has an anaphylactic food allergy to dairy and peanuts. If the house goes and his EpiPen is gone, I saw this a lot during the floods in the Appalachian region last year. Kids that had food allergies lost their medication, and then your home's gone, so you lost your kitchen and all your safe food, and you're relying on, you know, benevolent neighbors or whatever to provide you food, or you're eating out. Well, for someone with food allergies, that's really scary, and to not have your medicine. So having extra EpiPens for him, this is literally life-saving for him, especially if he didn't have time, and he wouldn't have time to grab his EpiPen probably if we're running out here in the middle of the night. So extras for him. And then you had some already. Blankets. Emergency blankets.
It is March.
Yep. Snacks for the kids. We probably wouldn't feed them in here, but unless we were in here for a really extended period of time, but just to have them for afterwards, just in case. Ponchos. I don't know if it's raining when we get out and need to cover kids up. That's another emergency blanket. Let's see. Okay, this is for me being an extra set of glasses for me because I'm blind as a bat without them, or if I don't have them, and if I get woken up in the middle of the night and let's say I lost my glasses in the run to get out here or something, you know, who knows, I would be blind. So I have to have extra glasses, and I put some contacts in there just in case our house were gone. I would want to be able to see until I would be able to get. And I think that's about it in my bag. So how'd I do?
Good.
Okay. Anything that you would add?
Well, you already know that we have blankets in here.
So I can take those out.
Take what out?
Like the emergency blankets.
Oh, no. I'm talking about blankets. So you didn't have to pack any blankets.
Mm-hmm.
You knew a few things that were in here because we've been in here before. We came in last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we already knew that there was some blankets to stay warm.
These, I didn't know.
Those blankets. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The wool blanket and the military blanket. So we have some different. She knew a few things that we had, some smugs and stuff like that. So I think you did pretty well. I would probably maybe add some more snacks.
More snacks.
And the reason is that if we're packing for catastrophe, we're going to want probably a little bit more than that. I mean, that will help.
Yep.
But I'd say some beef jerky or some protein.
Yep.
And then we have the water, the protein, and then that'll
Get us to wherever we need to go next.
Yep. Yeah. If we're planning for the worst case scenario. Yeah. But just to hang out and ride the storm out through, we're way ahead.
Yep. So like I said, I would grab my bag. It sits by the door on the way out when we're running with kids. So yeah, the way it works is I go to bed at night and don't think of anything except for feeding my infant that nurses through the night. If there's a storm and he knows it's stormy weather, you don't sleep. And so he is kind of like in charge of waking everybody up. And so if he wakes me up and says, get to the shelter, I just grab kids, grab my bag, and we run out here.
Yep, that's my job.
Yep. So I'm grateful that that he handles that. It's one less thing I have to think about. I can go to bed and sleep and be at peace knowing that the storms are coming because I know that he's going to stay awake and let us know. And I think it's neat, too, that, you know, we have our roles and we both focus on different things in terms of preparing. And, you know, I've got to keep kids entertained and dry and all of that. And you're looking out for us in your manly ways. So together we're a good team.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, because I've mentioned this shelter on Instagram before, I've gotten lots of questions about it before, and I know there'll be some frequently asked questions in this video, so we'll touch on a few of those. One of the main questions that I've gotten before is just about air, like how do we breathe in here? So why don't you explain that?
On the door, they have holes, so airflow can go in and out, and then there's a metal thing that goes over top, so direct wind can't go into the shelter. It's protected, but there are holes on the door that allow airflow to go underneath and back and forth. So we're going to get fresh air, and so that's the air supply.
As fresh as it can be with 11 bodies in a tight space.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to change diapers while we're waiting.
Okay, so another question, Adam had mentioned, you know, how dangerous it would be for a child to get in here and lock the door because, as he mentioned, the fire department would literally have to come and cut the... Hacksaw, yeah. So to child-proof it and keep it safe.
You can get a lock. We have a key, and you can just lock the door. I don't do it that much because the kids don't come in the garage that much, but you can lock it. You can also get a combination safe lock for it, touch button, that kind of stuff. I just like the handle. I just like something that I know is going to be reliable 24/7. I have locked it a few times, but I don't anymore because what if I locked it and I'm at work and then they need to use the shelter, so I stopped locking it. The kids know that they don't come close to this area, and my kids, they're good kids.
They listen.
They listen.
All right. So hopefully you guys found this information useful. This is just kind of how we prepare for tornadoes. Otherwise, we do have a weather radio in the house that this time of year I make sure is plugged in. We have sirens in our community that we can hear. Typically, we can hear them inside the house. Depends on how loud it is.
I can hear them.
Yeah. So, you know, but the weather radio is just another, you know, it's a very loud siren that we can hear in the house if we need it. Our phones, thankfully with technology now, our phones usually let us know and give us alerts. So we have that. And other than that, I don't think we do really any other preparations for tornado season, just a lot of praying.
Yep.
And, I hope you found this information helpful. If you're someone that can't do a below ground shelter and you never even knew, I didn't know until he had mentioned it that something like this existed and actually was a fraction of the cost of something underground. Look into an above ground shelter. I'll put the link. We're not affiliated in any way. I don't get any commissions or anything, but I will put the link to the company that we used to build our above ground shelter in the description, and look into them. I think it's a great company, and they've checked all the boxes for us.
I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm satisfied.
Yeah. All right, friends, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another video. Thank you, Adam, for...
My pleasure.
He's not always in front of the camera as much as I am, so I'm trying to get him used to it, and we can get him in more videos. If you want to see Adam in more, let me know in the comments. Maybe we can talk him into doing this more regularly. All right, friends. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye.
See ya.